Hello everyone, and welcome back to Picture Mavericks. Today we are talking about La La Land, released in 2016, written and directed by Damien Chazelle, produced by Summit Entertainment, and starring Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone in the two central roles. The film won 6 Academy Awards including Best Director and Best Actress for Emma Stone, and it made over $446 million worldwide on a budget of just $30 million, making it one of the most profitable original films of the last decade. Now let me tell you something about this film up front. La La Land is not a love story in the way most people expect a love story to be. It looks like one, it is dressed like one, it has all the colors and music and dancing that love stories are supposed to have. But at its core, this film is about something more complicated and more honest than simply falling in love. La La Land is about what ambition costs, about the specific price that chasing a dream extracts from the people who pursue it, and about the truth that some of the most important relationships in our lives exist not to last forever, but to carry us toward the place we were always meant to reach, and then let us go. Whether you find that idea beautiful or heartbreaking or somewhere in between is entirely up to you. And this video will give you everything you need to make that call for yourself. That is what we are going to explore today. Before we meet Mia and Sebastian as people, we need to understand the world they inhabit, because Los Angeles in La La Land is not just a setting, it is a character in its own right. The film opens with one of the most technically ambitious sequences in recent musical history, a single long take on a gridlocked freeway where dozens of strangers burst into song and dance. And if you watch that sequence carefully, it tells you everything you need to know about this city and this film. Los Angeles is a place where people come to become something, from every corner of the country, every background, every level of talent, all of them carrying the same thing, a dream that felt too big for wherever they came from and just barely possible here. And the freeway sequence captures both sides of that reality simultaneously, because it is joyful and full of energy, but it is also happening in a traffic jam, everyone stuck, everyone waiting, everyone performing their hope for an audience that is not really watching. That is Los Angeles as Chazelle sees it. A city where aspiration and loneliness share the same address, where the distance between the dream and the reality is measured not in miles, but in the particular quality of the late afternoon light that makes everything look like it could still happen. Mia and Sebastian both live inside this world, and both of them are losing the battle with it when the film begins. Mia, played by Emma Stone, is an aspiring actress who works as a barista on the Warner Brothers studio lot, which is one of the most quietly painful details in the film because she is literally serving coffee in the shadow of the industry that keeps refusing to let her in. She has been to countless auditions, she has faced countless rejections, and we can see in the way Stone plays her early scenes that Mia has developed a kind of protective numbness, a way of not fully investing in each audition so that each rejection does not fully destroy her. But underneath that numbness is a very specific and urgent desire, and it is not simply to be famous. It is to be seen, to be recognized as an artist, to have someone look at what she has made of herself and confirm that it is real and it is worth something. Mia does not just want to act. She wants to write her own one-woman show. She wants to create something entirely hers. She wants the kind of recognition that comes not from fitting into someone else's vision, but from having a vision of your own that other people choose to enter. That is her core desire, and it is the desire that will ultimately define every choice she makes, including the choice that changes her relationship with Sebastian forever. Sebastian, played by Ryan Gosling, is a jazz pianist who is in love with a version of jazz that the world has largely moved on from. Traditional jazz, the kind played in small clubs by musicians who understood it as a living conversation between players rather than a performance for a passive audience. His desire is preservation. He wants to open his own jazz club, a place where the music he loves can exist on its own terms without compromise, without commercialization, without being turned into background noise for people who are not really listening. And this desire makes Sebastian immediately sympathetic, but also immediately frustrating, because his dedication to purity is so absolute that it borders on self-sabotage. He gets fired from a restaurant job early in the film for playing traditional jazz instead of the Christmas music he was hired to play. And he does it not out of carelessness, but out of a genuine inability to perform music he does not believe in. Sebastian is a man who would rather struggle in service of something real than succeed in service of something hollow. And the film presents this as both his greatest quality and his most significant vulnerability. Because the world does not naturally reward purity. The world rewards product. And Sebastian is going to have to learn the cost of that lesson in a way he does not expect. Mia and Sebastian meet twice before they actually connect, and both early encounters are hostile, which is the film's way of signaling that the relationship these two people are about to have is not going to be simple or comfortable or the kind of love that arrives gently. Their first real connection happens when Sebastian plays piano in a club and Mia stops to listen. And it is one of the most carefully observed moments in the film because what happens between them in that moment is not romantic attraction in the conventional sense. It is recognition. Mia hears something in Sebastian's playing that she understands from her own experience of trying to make something real in a world that is not particularly interested in real things, and Sebastian sees in her face an audience that is actually listening, which is the thing he has been playing for all along. What these two people give each other from the very beginning is validation, and that is a deeper thing than love in some ways, because validation says I see what you are trying to do and I believe it is worth doing. And for two people who have been told repeatedly that what they are trying to do is not worth doing, that is an enormously powerful thing to receive from another person. Their relationship works, for as long as it works, because they are each other's most important audience. Now here is where the film becomes honest in a way that most romantic films tend to avoid. The central conflict of La La Land is not a misunderstanding. It is not a rival love interest. It is not a difference in values that can be resolved through a single honest conversation. It is something more fundamental than any of those things. The central conflict is that the specific path each of these people needs to walk in order to become the artist they are meant to be is a path that cannot be walked together, at least not in this season of their lives. The film suggests that real artistic success demands a particular kind of single-mindedness, a willingness to prioritize the work above most other things. And the further along that path you travel, the harder it becomes to maintain the kind of presence and availability that a relationship requires. Mia needs to be consumed by her art in a way that leaves limited room for anyone else. Sebastian needs to be consumed by his music in a way that leads him to make choices that pull him away from her. And the painful irony is that each of them is pushing the other toward greater success, even as that success is pulling them apart. The conflict is not between Mia and Sebastian as people. The conflict is between love and ambition. And this film has the honesty to show you what happens when that conflict does not resolve cleanly. I want to talk about the musical numbers in this film because they are doing something more specific than decoration or entertainment. La La Land is not a musical in the traditional sense where characters sing because the emotion is too large for dialogue. It is a musical where the songs exist in a space slightly outside reality, a heightened emotional plane where the characters can express what they cannot bring themselves to say directly in ordinary life. When Mia and Sebastian dance together under the stars at the Griffith Observatory, they are not just dancing. They are expressing the full idealized version of what they could be to each other, the version that exists in possibility before the complications of real life have had time to arrive. When Mia sings about the actress her aunt was, who jumped into the Seine River in Paris out of pure aliveness, she is not just telling a story, she is articulating her own philosophy about what art requires, which is a willingness to leap without knowing where you will land. The musical numbers are the film's emotional truth speaking directly. They are the version of events where the characters feel and express everything they are too guarded or too practical to access in their ordinary lives. And this is why when the musical numbers quietly disappear in the second half of the film as reality increasingly takes over, you feel their absence as a kind of loss, because the world of the film is becoming more real and less beautiful at exactly the same time. The Griffith Observatory sequence is the emotional centerpiece of the entire film, and I want to give it the attention it deserves. Mia and Sebastian sneak into the observatory after hours. They dance, they float, they spin among projected stars, and the sequence is so deliberately beautiful that it almost aches to watch, because Chazelle is showing you the idealized version of this relationship at its absolute peak, the version that exists before compromise and the grinding reality of building a life have had any chance to work on it. This sequence is shot as pure romanticism, as the feeling of possibility rather than the experience of reality. And that is intentional, because what Mia and Sebastian have in this moment is not yet a relationship in the full sense. It is a dream of a relationship, a projection of what they hope this might become. And the film knows this. Chazelle knows this. And he makes this sequence so beautiful precisely because he knows what is coming. Because the more luminous he makes this moment, the more it will mean by the time the ending arrives. The Griffith Observatory sequence is not showing you what Mia and Sebastian have. It is showing you what they are about to spend the rest of the film leaving behind. The midpoint of La La Land is where the film transitions from its first movement into its second, and the shift is marked by something very specific, which is that the dreams start working. Sebastian is offered a position in a commercially successful jazz fusion band led by his old friend Keith, played by John Legend, and he takes it, not because he believes in the music, but because it pays well and it gives him the financial stability he needs to eventually open his own club. Mia begins working on her one-woman show, investing everything she has emotionally and financially into it. On the surface, this looks like progress, both of them moving toward their goals. And in a more conventional romantic film, this would be the section where everything comes together and the couple rides their mutual success into a happy ending. But what Chazelle shows you instead is not success bringing people together, but success beginning to pull them apart. Because Sebastian's touring schedule means he is absent more and more, and Mia's investment in her show means she is increasingly isolated, and the two of them are growing in directions that do not naturally converge. The tension that appears at the midpoint is quiet and undramatic, and it is all the more significant for it, because it does not arrive as a fight or a betrayal. It arrives as two people slowly becoming less present to each other while remaining in the same relationship. The breakup of Mia and Sebastian is one of the most honestly written relationship endings in a major studio film in recent years, and the reason it works so well is that neither of them is entirely wrong. Sebastian has compromised his artistic identity by joining a commercial band, and Mia calls him on it. She tells him that the music he is playing is not the music he believes in, and she is right. But she is also not seeing the full picture, because Sebastian made that compromise partly to build a stable future for both of them. Mia feels abandoned, not romantically but creatively and emotionally. Sebastian missed her one-woman show because of a photo shoot, and the message she has received, whether he intended to send it or not, is that his career took priority over her work on the most important night she has had. And Sebastian feels that Mia does not fully appreciate what he has given up to try to provide a stable foundation for their relationship, which also contains truth. What makes this breakup so difficult to watch is that it is a conflict between two people who still care about each other and who are both, at least partially, right about what they are saying, and there is no clean resolution available because the problem is not a misunderstanding that can be corrected. It is a genuine gap between what each of them needs right now and what the other is able to provide. They do not separate because they stop caring. They separate because caring, by itself, is not enough to bridge the distance that ambition has opened between them. The audition scene near the end of La La Land is the most important scene in the entire film, and I want to be very clear about why. After the failure of her one-woman show, Mia has essentially given up. She is preparing to go home to her parents. She believes the dream is finished, and Sebastian calls her with one last audition opportunity, and she goes almost in spite of herself. In the audition room, she is asked to tell a story, and what she tells is the story of her aunt, the actress who loved Paris and jumped into the Seine River out of pure love of being alive. And it is a story about obsession, about the willingness to be completely consumed by a passion that the sensible world might find excessive or impractical. And in the way Emma Stone performs this scene, something shifts, because Mia is not performing the story, she is living it. She is accessing her own obsession, her own willingness to be consumed. And what the people in that room are seeing is the real Mia, not the audition version, but the actual human being underneath all the rejection and the protective numbness. The thesis of the entire film is in this scene. Art comes from obsession, not from talent alone, not from training alone, not from timing or industry connections, but from a willingness to be so completely devoted to something that you would sacrifice almost everything else for it, including, as it turns out, the person you love. The 5-year time jump is where La La Land stops being gentle with you. We jump forward 5 years, and we find both Mia and Sebastian exactly where their ambitions were pointing them throughout the film. Mia is a famous actress. She has achieved everything she set out to achieve. She is recognized and celebrated, and her face is on billboards in the city where she spent years being told she was not quite right for the part. And Sebastian has opened his jazz club. It is exactly the kind of place he always dreamed of, small and warm and dedicated to the music he loves. And the name of the club is Seb's, and the logo is the same design that Mia once sketched for him on a napkin, which is a detail that quietly stops you in your tracks if you catch it. They have both won. They have both arrived at the destination they were always trying to reach. And they arrived there separately. The 5-year jump does not dwell on this. It does not give you a grief scene or a moment of explicit reckoning. It simply shows you the reality and trusts you to feel the weight of it. Because what the time jump is saying is that the relationship was not a failure. It was a catalyst. It was the thing that pushed both of them far enough and fast enough toward their dreams that those dreams became real. And then it ended because that is what it was for. The ending of La La Land is structured in 2 parts, and both parts together are what give the film its full meaning. The first part is the imagined life sequence, where Mia and Sebastian are reunited by chance in his jazz club, and the film shows you, in a long and wordless montage, the life they could have lived together, the version where they stayed, where they built something side by side, where their story had the conventional happy ending. This sequence is shot in the golden heightened style of the film's early musical numbers. It is a dream, it is a fantasy, and Chazelle gives it to you fully and completely, so that you can feel exactly what the other path might have looked like before he brings you back to the real one. And then the fantasy ends, and we are back in the real jazz club, and Mia is there with her husband, who is not Sebastian, and their eyes meet across the room. Sebastian plays the melody that has been their theme throughout the film, and Mia listens. And for a moment the film holds both things at once, the imagined life and the real one, the might have been and the is, what was lost and what was gained. And then Mia leaves with her husband, and Sebastian watches her go, and the film ends. Not with grief, not with regret, but with acknowledgement, with the quiet recognition that what happened between them was real, it mattered, and both of them are standing exactly where the best version of their lives required them to stand. People have described the ending of La La Land as a bold or unconventional choice, a filmmaker refusing to give the audience what it wants, but I think that framing slightly misses what is actually happening. The film does not reject the happy ending to be surprising or different. It rejects the happy ending because within the logic of the story it is building, the conventional happy ending would require the film to contradict everything it has been saying for 2 hours. The entire architecture of La La Land is built on the idea that Mia and Sebastian each need to walk a path that their relationship cannot survive, at least not in the form it takes during the film. If they ended up together without either of them compromising the dream that defines them, the film would be saying you can have the dream and the love and the life all at the same time, which is the comfortable version of the story, and which this film is not interested in telling. The ending the film gives you instead acknowledges that Mia and Sebastian each made the choices they needed to make, that those choices were costly, and that the relationship that made those choices possible was real and valuable and worth carrying with you even after it is over. Whether that feels like the right answer or a deeply sad one will depend on where you are in your own life when you watch it. Both readings are completely valid. The film earns both responses. I want to spend a moment on the final look, because it is one of the most carefully performed pieces of screen acting in this film. When Mia and Sebastian look at each other across the jazz club just before she leaves, Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling are communicating something that would take pages of dialogue to approximate in words, and they do it in a few seconds of silence. What that look contains is recognition, gratitude, grief, and acceptance all at once. It is 2 people saying to each other without words, I remember everything. I know what we were to each other. I know what we gave each other and what it cost each of us. I am glad it happened, and I am not asking for anything different now. There is no regret in that look, and there is also no pretending that nothing was lost. Grief and regret are not the same thing. You can grieve something fully without wishing it had gone differently, and that is exactly what that final exchange is holding. 2 people who loved each other, acknowledging without words that the love was real, the ending was right, and both things are true at the same time. And then she walks out the door, and the film is over. So let us bring everything together. La La Land is a film about three things happening at the same time, and holding all three is the only way to fully understand what you just watched. The first thing it is about is Los Angeles itself, the particular way this city holds people inside a dream long enough for the dream to either become real or consume them. The way it manufactures aspiration as a product and sells it to everyone who arrives with a suitcase and a plan. The second thing it is about is the specific cost of creative ambition. The film is not saying that pursuing your dream is wrong or that love does not matter. It is saying that the path to becoming the artist you are meant to be sometimes requires you to make choices that love alone cannot protect you from, and that understanding this is part of what it means to grow up inside a creative life. The third thing, and the deepest thing, is what it means to have a relationship that changes you completely and does not last, and whether that kind of relationship is something to mourn or something to be grateful for. La La Land does not tell you which answer is correct. It presents both with equal honesty and lets you sit with the question. My personal take on this film is that it is one of the most technically beautiful and emotionally precise films of the last 10 years, and the ending lands differently, depending on where you are in your own life when you see it. Some people find it devastating. Some people find it strangely comforting. Some people find it both at the same time. The fact that it produces all of those responses, genuinely and simultaneously, is not an accident. That is the film doing exactly what it set out to do. Whether it deserves every award it received or whether it is slightly overrated is a debate you will find everywhere online, and I am going to leave that one entirely to you, because what matters is not what the industry thought of it, but what it does to you personally when those final notes play and that gate closes. Most people watched the ending of La La Land and felt something they could not quite name. Now you know exactly what it was. Thank you for watching Picture Mavericks, and if this breakdown gave you something new to think about, consider subscribing because we go deeper so you do not have to. See you in the next one.